Solway to Discipuli at Discipuli, Vestimenta Romana. So this is part one of two. Here we're going to talk about what folks wear in their daily lives around the house and around town in ancient Rome. So say that after me, Vestimenta Romana. All right, let's start with your basic undergarments. Over there to the left, you see the tunica. Everybody say that, tunica. That is sort of the basic Roman garment. Everyone can wear this. Man, woman, rich, poor. You see it looks like a t-shirt that goes almost down to your knees. And then kind of wrapped around it around the waist, you see a cingulum. Everybody say that one, cingulum. Now it could look like that fancy leather thing right there. Sometimes it was just a rope or a cord. The idea here is it makes it look like it's two parts. And also, if it weren't there, if you were to be working and bend down and your tunica went over your knee, you might have trouble standing back up. All right. So most folks wore the tunica. You could put other layers over it, but that's what you're going to see most people walking around town wearing. Now, women often didn't want to wear the tunica. They would instead wear the thing you see over on the right called the stola. Everybody say that, stola. Notice that it tends not to have sleeves. It's kind of pinned over her shoulders. And notice it doesn't go down to her knees. It goes all the way down to her feet. So that's the basic difference between the tunica and the stola. The tunica has sleeves and goes to the knees. The stola has no sleeves and goes down to the feet. Women tend to like to show off their shoulders. Maybe that's something we can talk about later. Notice that she also has a cingulum around her waist, once again to make the garment more usable, but it also gives this nice layered effect, as you can see. Let's see. Pinned up her stola there, they have one of these things called a fibula. So if you ever need to like tie a garment together, they use something called a fibula. So everybody say that one after me, fibula. Okay, so those are the basic undergarments. This is what you're going to see pretty much everybody wearing. Now, over that, on special occasions, or if it's cold or something like that, the tunica, the stola may not be enough. Well, if you're a male citizen, you can wear this thing called a toga. Notice it wraps around the waist, it goes over one shoulder, and then you drape it over one arm. Typically, the toga is solid white. This one you can see has a purple stripe on it. So if you're in the government, you tend to wear a purple stripe. The wider the stripe, the more important you are. Plain white toga is what most male citizens wear. Now, again, the toga is for male citizens. So you're going to find women don't wear a toga, and you're going to find that people that live in the Roman Empire that are not citizens will not wear the toga. Over to the right here, you see two women wearing a palla. In fact, the woman in the middle, she's wearing something that looks a little bit like a cross between a tunica and a stola. That's that pinkish garment. And then wrapped around it, you see the palla. Now notice it looks a lot like the toga. It's wrapped around her body. It goes over one arm. And instead of just draped over the shoulder, she's brought it up over her hair. Perhaps it's windy, perhaps it's rainy, and she wants to protect that fancy hairdo that probably took an hour for one of her servants to do for her. Now, if you look at the woman all the way to the right, you notice she has a blue garment on. That's kind of like a tunica. She's got that on underneath. You can see it's got the sleeve. Over that, the white garment, you can see she's wearing the stola. It's pinned up. It goes all the way down to her feet. And then the yellow garment that you see wrapped around her is the palla. That's kind of the standard way to wear a palla, wrapped around the body, over one shoulder, and over one arm. Again, it's exactly like the toga. Main difference is the toga is a semicircle in shape, and the palla is a rectangle in shape. And that's why they look like they hang or drape a little bit differently. So the palla can go over one shoulder, it can go over two shoulders, or you can pull it up over your head. You can wear a tunica or a stola. You can wear both. And then the palla, again, fancy, or if you need it for the weather. Okay, so we got our undergarments and we got our overgarments. Now, if you are traveling, or it's really cold, or it's really, really windy or rainy, you might want yet a third layer on. So over to the left, you see a guy wearing a painula. Notice it covers his front pretty much entirely. It's got longer sleeves. It's got a hood on it. This is what you wear when you're traveling and you're walking in the driving wind and rain. And he's got a baculum in his hand to kind of help him along as he walks. Now over to the right, the two outer garments here are things that the soldiers might wear. Soldiers still need to use their sword and shield, so the painula is a little bit too stuffy for them. So in the middle, you see the sagum. Everybody say that, sagum. Now this guy's got it pinned up 3 times. Usually you'd only have it pinned up once. That way your arms have a little bit more use. That's what the soldiers wear when they're cold. And then over to the right is something more like your generals are going to wear. You get to dress a little fancier. That's called a lacerna. Everybody say that, lacerna. And you can see the fibula right there kind of pinning it together. All right. So we've seen quite a kinds of footwear as we saw these people wearing. So we did the undergarments, the outer garment, and then the outer garment if the weather's bad or cold. Let's talk about the footwear now. In the upper left-hand corner, everybody say solia. Now, typically you wear 2 of these, so we're going to see these in the plural. Everybody say solei. Yeah, and if you look, it's kind of like the sole of a shoe with some leather straps to hold it to your foot. Typically with the solei, your heel is uncovered and your toes are uncovered. Now, if you look down at the bottom, you see a calceus. Everybody say that, calceus. Now the plural, everybody, calcei. Again, you tend to wear more than one of these, so we're likely to see the plural. The difference between a solia and a calceus is the calceus covers your heel. And as you can see, it's got a full heel covering, and you can see the toes are still kind of free. The Romans didn't really enjoy covering up their toes because it's really, really hot in Rome. It's really hot in Italy, and they like everything to be breathable. You'll notice that the undergarment was the tunica. It only goes down to the knees. They don't really like pants. Pants are too warm. They're too uncomfortable when it's 115 degrees out. So the Romans like things that are cool and airy. All right. And then lastly, on the upper right there are the caligae. Caligae are what the soldiers tend to wear. So the singular, everybody, caliga, and the plural, everyone, caligae. Now, these often had the toes free. They often had the heel covered, and they went up a little higher on the leg to kind of protect your shins when you were in battle, marching, that kind of thing. All right, so those are more like the soldiers would wear. All right, so now we got our footwear. So let's talk about some accessories. On your head, you might wear, everyone, a corona. Now, originally, these were made out of leaves, and this is something that would be given to you if you were being honored in some way. So if you did something great and your people wanted to give you an honor, they would put a corona on your head. Again, they were originally made out of leaves, but later they started making the leaves out of gold, and then that turned into the gold ring around the head that kings wore in the Middle Ages. Underneath that, you see that rolled up piece of papyrus there with writing on it. That's an epistula. Everybody say that, epistula. That was a symbol that you knew how to read and write. And if you look at that guy, that cartoony guy, he's dressed up pretty much like a Roman. You can see his tunica, his toga. Looks like he's got some solei on his feet. And then the 4 items over at the right are some accessories that women might wear. So the first one goes around your neck. Everybody say it, linea. The second one, upper right, goes around your arm. Everybody say armilla. They love that coiled snake kind of design. In the middle one on the bottom, that goes on your finger, everybody, annulus. And the 2 things over to the bottom right, those go in your ears, everybody, in aures. That one also is plural because you tend to wear 2, in aures. So those are kind of like the accessories. And we could add to that the baculum, the thing that the guy had earlier with the painula to help him walk. All right, so let's take a look at some Romans here. Go all the way to the right. Look at the servants in this family. Notice each of the 4 is wearing a tunica, and that's basically the only garment they've got on. You can see there's a cingulum around their waist, and on their feet they have solei. Notice their tunica is brownish in color, so that way when they work and they get it dirty, nobody notices. So your tunica color can kind of indicate who you are. Now let's come over to the family here on the left. Let's talk about the dad first. You'll notice he has on a white tunica underneath. You can see the sleeve there. Citizens and wealthy people tended to wear white. The reason you wear white is if you can go the whole day wearing white and not get it dirty, it means you're wealthy enough that you don't have to work. So the servants wear brown so it can get dirty. Rich people like to wear white so they can show off that they didn't get it dirty. Now, wrapped around him, you'll notice that he is wearing a toga. It's going around the waist, it goes over his shoulder, it goes over his arm. Remember, this is fancy dress. While he's wearing the toga, he can't even use that left arm. He can just kind of like walk around holding his toga. Again, so it's a symbol of wealth and power. In his hand, you see an epistula. That's a symbol that he knows how to read and write. Not everybody went to school. It was very expensive to hire a tutor or to go to a school with only 5 or 6 students. So the epistula means you can read and write. Take a look at his feet. He is wearing solei. Solei are the most common in ancient Rome. If you're traveling, you might wear the calcae, and if you're fighting, you might wear the caligae. Now, if you look at his 2 sons right there, they each have a tunica on as well. They each have a toga as well. Notice their toga has a purple stripe. Young boys wore a purple stripe until they grew up. And as soon as you're an adult, you wear the all-white toga that you see dad wearing. Now, if you were in the government, you could still keep that purple stripe, but kids get to wear it until they grow up. Now let's look at the 2 women here. Let's start with mom. You'll notice mom has that long green garment. That would be a stola. It goes from her shoulders all the way down to her feet. It's hard to tell if that one has sleeves or not because she has a palla over it. Notice the palla for her is all white. Typically that's going to be some bright color other than white, other than purple. She's got a white one today. Notice she has it wrapped around her waist. She's got it up over both shoulders, so she must be a little bit chilly. And it is wrapped around one arm. So a palla is a little bit easier to wear than a toga, but not so much. And if you look at the little girl, she's dressed a little bit like mom. It looks like she has a stola on with sleeves, or perhaps she has a yellow tunica with a yellow stola over it. It's really hard to tell. And she does also have the white palla. She looks a little bit like mom there. Hard to tell what kind of footwear the girls are wearing, but let's assume they're wearing solei like everyone else. Now, the 5 family members over to the left here, you can't see it, but every single one of them has a cingulum. The cingulum goes around the tunica, the cingulum goes around the stola. It makes the garment functional. All right, so here's my last slide. This is a bronze statue of the Emperor Augustus. So go ahead and take a look at everything he's wearing. All right. He was emperor right after Trajan. He built Hadrian's Wall in Great Britain and England. Kind of one of the more famous emperors. So anyway, he has 4 items of vestimenta on. What I'd like you to do is to take a look at it and try to figure out what he is wearing. So what main garment do you think he's got on? He's got something wrapped around his main garment. So what do you think it most likely is based on the way he's wearing it and based on who he is? Take a look at his footwear. What do you notice about his footwear? Which of the 3 kinds do you think it is? And he's got a 4th item of vestimenta. You can't see it here in this statue, but I know you can figure out what it is. All right, so that concludes this video on vestimenta Romana, valeta, discipuli, et discipuli.